Welcome to the Shopify App Show. Every week we showcase independent apps that are changing e-commerce. Today's episode is as topical as they come. We're talking search. In the last 12 months, the way customers interact with search has had the biggest changes we've seen in probably 20 years, probably since Google was first invented. Is the search box a chat box? Is the chat box a search box? Are they the same thing? Are they AI? Are they curated? Does the results page even exist anymore? None of those questions have a proper answer, and if we were to ask the same questions tomorrow, the answer might be different to what they are today. What's clear is there's a new wave of apps and platforms that are changing the game. I've been keeping a close eye on quite a few of these over the last 6 to 12 months, and we're starting to see some of them rise to the top. Sebastian Hooker, he's ex-Google, he's ex-Microsoft, and he's taken the leap away from the big giants to start Nimstrata. Nimstrata's proposition is simple. He's basically trying to build an app that puts Google's search algorithms on your store, powered by the Google Cloud Vertex AI. What does that mean? It essentially means that instead of having to rely on platforms that are trying to reinvent search, you're using the best of Google, bringing it into your site, and tools like Nimstrata are bringing the functionality and the front end to go with that. I've had a few conversations with Sebastian. I've learnt a huge amount from him every time we've caught up, and to be honest, I continue to learn a lot in this space. So I found this one that probably the most insightful chat that we've had so far, and we've had some great chats so far. So I'm hoping you'll learn something from it too. Let's go. So, Sebastian, thanks for joining us on the Shopify App Show today. Now, you're ex-Google, ex-Microsoft too, I believe, and you decided to leave the mothership to go and reimagine search from scratch. How many people have tried that before you, leaving Google to go and do search better than Google has?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a common path or if it's a crazy path, but we haven't strayed far because in a lot of ways we still are tightly integrated with Google and rely on them to provide our search. So I look at it less as leaving to compete with Google and kind of rebuild search the way they've built it, and instead taking the view that Google's great at search, but it's hard for people to buy. Vertex AI and all of these search algorithms that Google provides to end users have been perfected over years and like decades of search intelligence. And I left to try and bring those to the masses, right? How do you take any store on Shopify and provide it with Google quality search? So, I think it's a slightly less risky path. However, it was leaving, a stable job to try building my own company. And there are challenges with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine you've gone from a very well-resourced place to, not having any resources. And you've obviously come up with Nimstrata, which, according to your shiny tagline is that you're essentially bringing Google's enterprise-grade AI to normal Shopify stores. It sounds very impressive, and I've seen the product. It is very impressive. But what does that actually mean? Because it also could be vague, especially in the way that search is changing so much at the moment. People don't know the difference between chat and search anymore. There's so much evolution, and it's why I wanted to chat to you today more than anything, is because I'm still learning, and it's evolving so quickly. But maybe I will just get you to give a quick rundown. What does Nimstrata do, and where does it fit into the equation?
Sure. So search is a very broad and wide conversation, as you just alluded to. So a lot of merchants, a lot of consumers think of search as going to google.com, maybe Bing, maybe not, searching for things you might be looking for and making it to a site, whether it's through a sponsored result in an ad or an organic result. But when we talk about search, we actually mean the on-site search experience. And as agentic commerce becomes towards the forefront, the offsite, the onsite, the acquisition, the transaction layer, all of that's kind of being merged. And we can talk about that when we address UCP in a little bit here. But what we really focus on is the search bar on a customer's website. So if you have a brand on Shopify and a large catalog, typically 1,000 SKUs plus is where we target, it can be very difficult to take keyword search or collection page merchandising tools and show people the products that are most relevant to them based on other activity on your site, what they're searching for, how they're using filters, how they're sorting price, pagination, what have you. And that's really the journey we aim to help with. So Nimstrata, the company name comes from the word nimbostratus, which is a type of cloud. We started as a cloud consulting company. And the cloud consulting we did was essentially really niche down into implementing Google search algorithms on e-commerce websites. Pretty soon after we launched, we realized that people wanted more of an easy button. They were kind of sick of paying for the professional services, and launching one more consulting company was not the way to grow our business. So instead, we pivoted almost immediately to a B2B SaaS offering. So Nimstrata has a SaaS tool. It's called Retail Cloud Connect. It's not the most clever name, but it's because we connect Shopify stores and other e-commerce platforms to retail cloud solutions. Today, primarily Google Cloud's Vertex AI search for retail. So what Vertex AI search for retail, I'm sorry, it's been renamed to Vertex AI search for commerce recently. What this product is a very finely tuned LLM product to deliver commerce focused results on a storefront. So that means optimizing for conversion rate and revenue per visitor. So, that green shirt you're wearing, if you go onto a website that sells thousands of shirts and you type in green shirt, to find the most relevant green shirt that you're looking for and also rank that based on the likelihood to convert or drive revenue is a really tricky problem. And that's what Vertex AI Search for Commerce does quite well. The challenge is Vertex AI Search for Commerce is also that enterprise grade tool, which you kind of mentioned in your intro. And most Shopify brands don't have the resources, whether it's time or people, to onboard an enterprise grade tool. And that's what our app does. We sit as the middleware that allows anyone on Shopify to get access to these algorithms.
Yeah, cool. And so I guess I'm going to try and ask some dumb questions now because I feel like also we want to really dig into not just Nimstrata, but how that search experience is changing. Because I think the e-commerce experience, you go onto a Shopify store or any e-commerce store, you type into the search box green shirt, as you said, but then, yeah, the drop down is pretty similar on all. And yeah, I think the algorithms and magic that happens behind and the AI, I think, has had varying degrees of what actually exists and what is automated versus what is just a simple word matching thing. And what does like what's different about the way that you're actually outputting? If I search for a green shirt, what information do you know about me to know that it's do you know that it's a men's green shirt? Do you know that I'm yeah, tall and skinny or whatever it is? Like what do you know there, and why does it provide a better result than what you'd get from just using, say, an out of the box search?
Yeah, so to kind of understand where it's gone, you have to understand the history a bit. So you alluded to keyword matching, and that's how most search platforms began. If you think of product catalogs in a SQL database and you type in green shirts, well, old search platforms would look for how many times the word green showed up, look for how many times the word shirt showed up, and typically, combine that maximum and you'd see things like keyword stuffing, title optimization, descriptions, really trying to, get people to see that this is a green shirt. And that keyword search was actually pretty effective. It did train merchandisers and shoppers alike to know what to type to get the search results they're looking for. After keyword search really evolved into natural language processing, this was kind of like the early days of AI and ML. And this is 10, 15 years ago now. Like any search tool on an e-commerce website should be able to find a green shirt. If it cannot, I mean, that's a problem because we've had natural language processing for a while. And a green shirt should be seen, maybe a better example is like a green dress shirt. Your shirt has a collar there. Well, you wouldn't want to see shirt dresses, which is a women's dress type, with like that looks like a t-shirt a bit that's longer. So the difference between a shirt dress and a green shirt and factoring in other keywords like a color like green all boil down into this natural language piece. So think of that as like the baseline. We've been able to do natural language search for a while. Well, now we're moving into these like LLMs and trying to understand, how do you search for things that might not be in the title or description? What if it's coming from an image or a meta field or something else as part of that product? Well, now you need to take all of these keywords that might exist throughout the product description and the details and make them searchable. And that's what Google does really well. So all of these data points from Google.com, like there are so many thousands of searches per day that are typed into Google.com that have never been seen before that still return really good results based on Google's understanding of how words work together in the world. That same understanding can be layered on top of a product catalog, and then a green dress shirt is almost 100% relevant to, whatever you're seeing in the results. But now we're taking it a step forward with conversational and saying, green dress shirt for a formal night out or a green dress shirt for a keg party, right? Like there's a big difference between the attributes that you might have in a formal search or going to a party in your friend's backyard. And that natural language piece and understanding the context of a product and the context of a search is where most of these like natural language tools can't really keep up. They know what you're looking for, but they don't know how to match it back to a product. So really that's where the ranking piece comes from. Now, you asked a couple of really good questions about, well, how do we know it's for men's? How do we know it's a tall person? After you've figured out the ranking, the popularity in your store, kind of matched keywords and sentences and phrases and intent to your product catalog, well, then you need to layer in personalization. And personalization comes from a few components. So what we look at is visitor ID. First and foremost, it's simple to say, Shopify says, here's your session ID. If you're logged in with your email address, you can also have like cross-device personalization. But at its core, as a shopper online, you're likely making a lot of decisions every day that you're not even noticing. Like maybe you're a size medium. So when you filter for size medium on your first couple of searches, well, now the algorithms know to surface medium products at the top of the results.
So,
Similarly, if you keep looking at men's collections and you make a search for shirts, well, we know not to show you women's shirts because your browsing history and all of those little micro data points on pages you viewed, what you've put in your cart, when you hit the back button, that can all infer the personalized results that eventually get you to what you want to buy.
great. And so it's really interesting that you can actually surface that stuff. Like what sort of impact do you see from people like actually, like how is it improving conversion? Like, do you see numbers? Do you have a way of illustrating that? How does a merchant know when they're using your platform, how much better it's performing?
Yeah, so we typically look at the metrics of revenue per visitor and conversion rate to see how the platform's converting. And we partner with a few A/B testing providers to get a neutral third party to show the results. Sometimes the results are like so good, you wouldn't believe us if we told you, yes, you're going to increase your revenue per visitor by 10%. Like that's just a big leap for any tool to provide, let alone, like a Shopify app. So we typically partner with like IntelliGems or Shoplift or Convert.com to come in, whatever a customer has in place, to test search results and collection pages and try and see that incremental lift in conversion rate, revenue per visitor, sometimes click-through rate as well. That's often a sign on lower converting sites to show, relevant search results. But what all of that usually leads to is a measurable uplift on day one. So like when I say on day one, that's like you just put Google search algorithms on your site, and now your keyword search has gone from okay to highly relevant. Well, every day you're ingesting more and more activity on your website that trains the AI models to go further. So after you've actually had these algorithms on your site for a few weeks, you start moving up what Google calls like data quality tiers into being able to rank by popularity and then rank for revenue optimization and personalized revenue optimization. We actually see the biggest lift in conversions when a merchant has trained the catalog for long enough to be ranked by popularity, and then another incremental lift when the results are returned by revenue optimization. These are a lot of words. This makes a lot of sense. If I have a dashboard I can share to kind of see incrementally that AI quality improving, there are metrics you can follow to see when those models get retrained. But traditionally speaking, we see personalized search results driving almost double the conversion rate of non-personalized search results. You could argue that, someone coming back to buy something on a site it was very high intent anyways. The fact that it's personalized and you've seen them before doesn't mean you were going to lose that conversion, but it is nice to see that when you do get those personalized results in front of someone, whether they have that high intent or they're visiting you for the first time or second time, you are getting them to what they're trying to do more quickly and reducing that friction. So super high level, we do see a nice uplift site wide on day one, that continues to improve as the AI models train. And then once you hit those personalized levels of AI models and can measure repeat visitors coming back, that conversion rate is much higher than prior to any implementation.
Yeah, cool. And I guess the thing I'm really interested in as well is firstly, how the actual search terms that you're seeing come through from customers is really changing. Like, I know I shop now, like I go to Gemini before I go to Google, and I'll give it a little explanation of what I'm looking for, which actually is just more useful for the search engine anyway. If I'd told
Right.
Google the same stuff rather than say best green shirt near me, I'll say, hey, I'm looking for a new green party shirt to wear when I'm hosting my next podcast. It's really changing the stuff that people are typing into search bars. What are you seeing there? Like, and is that something that merchants can see too? Like, actually adapt their content for those different ways of conversation rather than the classic, buy best green shirt, or those sort of SEO terms we used to optimize for.
Yeah, I think on-site search is changing quite a bit. However, I also think instead of optimizing products around this, it's actually a change in the UI that we're seeing more of. So traditional e-commerce search platforms that are really based on keywords are still the norm, right? It's almost like retraining user behavior to say, yeah, you can type green shirt. Excuse me, you can type green shirt in here, but you can also ask us a question through the same box. And like helping the user understand that the search bar is capable of so much more now is kind of step one. Because if you're a user expecting a traditional search experience that's fine, but maybe not great, you're not going to go hammer the hardest questions at it on day one and then be disappointed when there are no results. But if you go to a website and it's kind of giving you sample queries, green shirt for a party, Hoka size 7 in men's, like it's kind of prompting you and getting you to like make a more either like long tail search or a more conversational based search. That's typically when we see users actually start to experiment. So, in addition to like kind of pre-prompting the user and providing them with these examples, I think step two is actually providing them with a more chat-based UI. So, we're very opinionated about conversational commerce, primarily because we've seen it done very poorly.
Mm.
And the way we see it happening right now, and this is just, it's a nascent industry. A lot of apps are coming out of the woodwork to try and do this right. And it's really fun seeing the innovation too. However, what we've seen is a fair amount of like ChatGPT wrappers or, Gemini wrappers, and it's just a widget on a site. And all it's really doing is using like OpenAI or Gemini's view of the world and like maybe a little bit of RAG scraping the customer or the merchant's website. And then it's putting a chatbot on it. And this chatbot often sits on top of something that, they'll kind of drop it in the bottom right corner as it almost looks like support. Maybe they stick it on the PDP. They're just shoving little conversation boxes somewhere on the site. And it doesn't really follow a traditional search and merchandising journey. So we're being a bit more opinionated about it. And instead of having our chat interface be segmented off from the journey, we're building it like Sidekick. So in Shopify, when you open up Sidekick and you're having a chat with it, it influences what's on the left side of the page. So if you say, show me a report for my sales over the last 12 months, the left side of the page takes you to the reporting tab, types in your query, and executes it. Our search bar is similar. So when you type in a search, like I'm looking for a green shirt, instead of showing you all the green shirts in that little chat box, we update the PLP. So you're essentially having a conversation with context, understanding why you might be shopping for this, but the traditional browsing experience of filtering, clicking back and forth is maintained. And then the chat can kind of prompt you and say, are you looking in a specific price range? We've got green and blue. Are you looking for more blue green or more green blue, right? Like you could kind of use the context from what's on the left side of the page to have a really engaging conversation, not a separate conversation. So I know that was a bit of a long answer, but it's two things. It's prompting the user to say, hey, you can interact with us in this new way, try it. And secondly, we're going to design a chat experience that feels like it augments a traditional search experience. It doesn't replace it with another pop-up.
Yeah, I think this is the most interesting part. Like, it's because the journey is really changing, isn't it? And like
Right.
e-commerce sites have probably over the last, probably since mobile came in, really we evolved to knowing you've got your navigation and search at the top, you've got your card in the top right. Yeah, if you've got
Yep.
a live chat, that goes in the bottom right. Some
Right.
stores have other things, even have buttons in every single corner for something. And you're right, you can't just layer on that extra chat bot. And like, I know we played around with it a few times, like looking where do we build it into that top search and just have an AI button on there? Do you have a separate
Right.
button with the little sparkly icon for AI? What does that look like? And so, yeah, it's a really interesting time because you want to be innovative, but it's also balancing it with what are the best practices out there and what do people evolve to, because at the end of the day, you want to still be giving people a UX that's similar to what they're doing on their iPhone or
Right.
doing elsewhere, don't you? Like, you can't go and create something that's totally foreign because, then customers will get lost and not
You might
actually.
lose your conversion rate, right? People don't know how to use it. And you bring up a really good point with support. So we need to be able to either do a nice agent to agent handoff so that
Mm,
if you're chatting with this search experience, but saying, what if I don't like this green shirt? How do I return it? Well, most search tools can't answer that question, but most support tools can.
mm.
So how do you reference that intent, that kind of support request, get the answer from the correct knowledge base or hand it off to another agent in a way that feels seamless? That's the challenge I've seen in the Shopify space right now, where every vendor has a different kind of approach they're going off of. And what we're looking to do is really unify that with a consistent unified interface and then allow other parties to put content into that interface, right? A support tool can feed content to that without saying your search tool has to own support now too.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing there, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is around like the actual content that gets output as well. Because you talk about like just adding a Gemini wrapper onto stuff. Like, you can
Right.
easily build a chatbot, for example, that can recommend 3 products, but it also gives an essay this long in terms of
Right.
what the product is about, and really optimizing that content so that it's like, hey, here's product X and product Y.
Yeah.
Buy product X if you want a bargain, buy product Y if you want something a little bit nicer. And that's actually kind of what you want to be providing to people so that they're not overwhelmed. And that's the challenge. I think a lot of these tools are, overwhelming people and providing decision paralysis opportunities, which I know as a procrastinator myself, that's the worst thing you can do. Like, if I go into a physical shop, the shopkeeper should be seeing me and be like, here's 2 shoes to pick from, grab
Right.
one of these shoes. And that's the only
Paradoxical
way they're going to
choice.
get me to buy something. Because if they say, let's see me go to the wall and start looking at all the different shoes, they probably should know that I'm going to get decision paralysis and walk out. So, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear what you're sort of seeing in that space and how people are doing that well to make sure that they're, making it easier for customers and just getting them through that journey quickly and not the other way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two pieces to unpack there. The paradox of choice is real, right? Where you put too much in front of someone. I think there's another challenge that most of these apps are not addressing that also punishes customers a little bit, and that's what the merchant wants to recommend or provide. So, as a really simple example, think of the Gemini and OpenAI training data sets that are trained on like all of the world's information, it feels like. Like they are trained on the internet, but their knowledge base has a cutoff, right? Their knowledge base is only until that last like model date was trained. And now Google has grounding with Google. It's got URL context. It can go out and learn more about the future. So after that model cutoff, it can figure it out. However, what most brands are figuring out is that context in that model training is actually like steering people towards old products.
Right.
So if you go in and you ask for, a recommendation, these models are trained to tell you everything that they've learned about products on Reddit, on review forums, on, like Facebook groups. Like it's incredible how much these models will push a tried and true favorite, where the brand might be saying, that's great, but we launched a new product line in 2026 and we actually want our AI recommending what we just put out,
Yeah.
right? It's more profitable. We can ship them faster. We don't actually make that old thing anymore. And the AI is saying, well, the internet talked about that old thing a lot more. So that's what I'm going to push out. So we look at that almost like a merchandising challenge. So when you look at a collection page on Shopify and you see certain brands at the top or you see certain products at the top, usually that comes from the notion of like boosting or burying results. You often see like, well, we're going to bury our out of stock results and we're going to boost our most profitable items or boost the newest items or group these three together because they're part of the same collection or product launch we're working on. Taking those same what we would call like merchandising controls to push and pull products as needed to that AI chat layer is all powered by like our open secret. That's Vertex AI, right? So we actually help merchants train the AI layer to optimize for their own business goals, whether that's specific attributes about a product they want to boost or bury, or maybe even related to their cost or availability or shipping capabilities. So it is tough when you throw a bunch of products in front of a customer and say, pick one, and you have that paralysis. But I think what's worse is when you do that and you're recommending products from years ago that AI just happens to be trained on from a long time ago, but it isn't even what the brand wants to recommend. So these like non-deterministic responses and these generative AI tools just kind of making things up sometimes, I think is a challenge for both the customers and the brands when
Yeah.
neither of them are getting to the product that they want to buy or they want to sell.
And it always has been like it's I keep repeating to people, it all comes down to data, doesn't it? Like you've got to have your
Yeah.
data right. And yeah, I think it's like, and I guess surfacing stuff like your inventory, your publish date, all of that stuff is really, really important because it should provide really good, simple signals for the AI to make sure that they're putting more profitable products that are new, that are in stock at the top of what they're recommending. But I'd love to hear like what are you seeing, or what are the recommendations you're having to make to merchants around their product data quality? Because I feel like it's a bit of a loaded question from me because my answer is you just need to make sure your data quality is good. But yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your if you've got any other insights or recommendations on that.
Yeah, I think there's like baseline data category requirement. You need good titles, you need good categories, you need good descriptions, you need good pictures. We've known that since Google Merchant Center came into existence and all these feed apps came out to get that data over correctly. I think where LLMs have unlocked a capability is to enrich and clean that data on behalf of the merchant. So if you upload a picture of that green shirt to an LLM, it should be able to tell you that it's short sleeved or long sleeved. And with
Mm,
that data, getting that into the right structured place inside of Shopify or your e-commerce platform is really important. So I would say like make sure the basics are done right. That's table stakes. And then figure out how you can use these AI tools to kind of augment the workload of putting more and more data in the right place on your stores. That's a pretty nice segue into UCP. I think the future of UCP, everything I see on LinkedIn and in the industry is very much like get your data right, get your taxonomy right, then you're ready for UCP. I actually think that it's going to be a really busy space. You're going to see agencies, you're going to see apps, you're going to see brands. Everyone's trying to figure out their data quality. And I think Shopify will even release tools within the platform that make elevating data quality or enriching it kind of core to the platform. Because if agentic commerce succeeds and Shopify can be the merchant of record or capture the transaction or the payment, like that's what they want. So everyone's incentivized for better data quality, the customers, the agencies, the brands, and the platforms. So given that everyone's incentivized to get there, I think you're going to see the industry kind of level up the same way every search tool knows what a dress shirt is now. Like
mm,
we're no longer keyword matching. We no longer have crap data quality. We have a new baseline. So once everyone's at that baseline, it's like, how do you compete? Right? Like that becomes the challenge. It's like we all have great data quality, but why are you going to recommend my green shirt over my competitors?
mm.
And that I believe is still going to come down to user generated content, going to be reviews. And that's going to be photos. That's going to be off-site recommendations on platforms, like Reddit, Facebook, wherever else. Where I worry though is actually like brand specific fulfillment logic. So sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this at your agency, brands have made decisions to kind of bend Shopify to work the way they need it to work, right? Like they might not use the inventory warehouse locations in the way that Shopify designed them. They might just put a 0 or a 1 in there and send data in from an ERP. Maybe they only keep stock at the variant level. Maybe different regions have different pricing. Maybe different areas have different shipping options. And all of that business logic, if you kind of think of like what a brand might do on their own storefront to maybe geolocate a customer and offer a kind of different web experience to them, well, packaging up that logic and feeding that into UCP and the agentic commerce piece sounds like a nightmare to me, And if I'm shopping on ChatGPT or AI mode on Google and I make a purchase and I find out that going to the website, it would have been either cheaper or easier to ship or something like that, like I'm probably going to initiate a cancellation or a return and then go buy it from the brand directly. Or worse, if I see it was cheaper on AI mode and now I've gone to the brand to give them my business and it's more expensive, well, that's kind of the equivalent of providing Google Shopping Center with like the wrong pricing, and Google suspends your accounts for that. So when you introduce these merchant specific intricacies around your platform that is not directly compatible with UCP, you're actually setting yourself up for like really unhappy users. And the fact that these are like default allow modes, like these platforms are just kind of turned on the platforms, I think Shopify is almost moving at a pace that's to unseat, the open AIs of the world or the big commerce or Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Like, I think they're focusing more on the industry and their the industry and like basically getting their merchants in front of customers, but not actually focusing on the merchants as much as they could. And there's really clear examples of this. Like, I'm sure you've had merchants asking you, like, how do I do this? Right? Like the fact that Shopify has launched these massive features and are defaulting everyone into them, but they haven't told the merchants what that means for them shows a massive gap between expectations and reality. And these partners are being expected to fill it, but they don't know like what that means either. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And my key message to people at the moment is just make sure that your data is structured in a way that it's meant to be structured. Like you touched on it perfectly. Like putting if you've got field like heaps of data mashed into a JSON object in a meta field, or you've got some price rules that are run by funky logic, or you've got all your colors, like your green shirt is called floral jungle eclipse, or what you need to make sure that it knows that it's green, and
Right.
you're getting the data in a format that will work nice and cleanly, so that you've got to still make it easy for as smart as the AI tools are, the easier you make it for it, the better it's going to be. And just having things like even like clear privacy policies and shipping rules and all that stuff that's actually the most basic. Like if you were to do an e-commerce audit 5 years ago, it's
Right.
all the same things that you would make sure you've got good. But there's a need to almost go back to just reviewing all that and getting all of that right. I think also building the automation for it as well. Like one example is like Shopify have rolled out their new taxonomy now, which is very
Yep.
similar to Google's taxonomy. But most of the catalogs that we see don't have that populated, and we need to find a way to then scale and automate that, because you can't be
Yeah.
going and assigning every product to a new category. And so it's about how we sort of automate and scale that, and also just try and surface the things that are most valuable, because we want
Did
effort.
you know we were launching that before you came up here today?
What's that? Sorry,
Did you know we were launching the category data enrichment tool?
you've done that today. There you go.
No, we haven't launched it yet. That's why I'm asking how you know about it, because
I
you're
well,
right. Brands do need a way to automate that, and that's exactly what we're
yeah,
moving towards as well. Like we think good
yeah,
structured data, enriched data helps better on-site search and off-site search. So,
yeah.
yeah, no, that's you nailed it, and I feel like you just saw our product roadmap.
There you go. I've seen like about four, like on the weekend, I tested about four different tools that sort of are aiming to do that. And
Yep,
I've been playing around with ways to actually build like an automation, because it feels like something that should be
feels
fairly easy to
easy,
do.
and
But
and that's what I
yeah,
think Shopify might do natively. I
yeah,
think they are incentivized to help customers do it natively,
yes,
and all of these solutions, including our own, will be nice to have, but you won't need that.
yeah,
I think Shopify will do it well.
yeah. And they do it natively at a single product level. You can
Right,
open
you
a
can go in and accept,
and it
right? They
does
just
it.
need like a
Yeah,
bulk accept like
yeah,
platform.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not great for a catalog of 20,000 products to do it that way. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but no, look, so obviously everyone's roadmaps are having to evolve so fast, aren't they? And
Right.
I'd love to, it probably segues one of the last things I wanted to ask you about is like, how are you managing your roadmap? Like
Yeah.
UCP, which we haven't actually gone into what UCP
Sure.
is so much today, but I feel like there's plenty of content about what that is on LinkedIn at the moment. And it's, essentially the protocol that people are using to actually make agentic commerce a scalable thing across all different business shapes and sizes, but like an announcement like that makes, all of a sudden can throw a product roadmap for someone like you into chaos. So how do you
Yeah.
actually manage a product map that keeps up while not getting distracted by every flashy new announcement that comes out?
Yeah, I think our core offering, because it's still search and merch, everything that's been announced helps augment that really positively. So it's nice to see that the search experience is not disappearing, collection pages are not disappearing, right? They're just changing. So we kind of take our roadmap and these announcements and say, is this like signal or noise, right? Is this something that we can actually act on and it improves our core offering, or is this going to be a distraction for us? The real simple answer, and I think this is for most customers or most companies who have customers, you kind of have to like listen to your user base and have an opinionated decision because the users might not know what they want yet, right? There's kind of this balancing act between a user saying like, we want this on our website, and going back and saying, well, like, we want something similar to that, but we would actually build it in this way because this is where we see the industry going, or the future of UCP, or what have you. So the long and short of it is, we have a lot of customers who pay us a lot of money to build things that extend into this space, and we kind of have to balance their needs, but combine that with like the platform evolution, and also make sure we're not building in a way where, we put a staircase into the wall. Like, everything kind of has to be a two-way door, or understanding that like, just because this is announced today, UCP or something, another protocol could be announced next year. And we really have to stay nimble to know that, yes, the industry is moving quickly, but if we keep delivering on our core promise, talking to our customers and building with them and advising them, we should be okay regardless of what the industry does.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that sounds like well, you make it sound easy. I'm
No,
sure
if
it's
we had
not.
our head of engineering on, he'd say, "What am I doing this week? You told me something else last week." We really have to, yeah, keep it's easier said than done, and yeah, it's expensive to chase trends. So we have
Yeah.
to kind of manage costs in that way too.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm going to pivot a little bit now as we sort of start
Sure.
to wrap up. Something I'd like to, and I never know how much people are going to answer this question, but I'd love to also hear from you. Like, there's obviously lots of people innovating in this space at the moment, and yeah, I put most of them into two buckets. There's the bucket of the flashy new tools where they've got a wonderful landing page, sign up for early access type thing, and it sounds like it's going to be brilliant, but there's not really much behind it yet.
Mhm.
And then there's also existing tools and platforms that have been around for a long time. And I think it's have a lot of respect for those platforms because they've got to keep evolving. And as you say, they've got to not put the staircase into the wall. But it's hard to it's hard for them to necessarily adapt at the speed that someone like you can. And yeah, that a lot of them have, as a result, they end up just putting the word AI into some of their functions and that have always been around, and it becomes hard to tell what they're actually doing to innovate and change. But I'd love to
Yeah.
hear from you, like who else do you think's doing a great job in your space, and who else, like people, if they're looking at Nimstrata, they're going to look at other options as well. Like what what else are you seeing, and who else do you have a lot of respect for?
Yeah, this is something that we talk about often because we entered a really crowded space, right? When we started this company 2.5 years ago, we were not the only search app. And in some ways, it's nice because you don't have to reinvent a category, and people realize, hey, this is a problem that's been solved, and they'll experiment with different tools, and they'll hopefully find yours, and you offer them something incrementally better that they don't find in their previous tool. But what that also means is we've done a lot of research to figure out, okay, what do we want to emulate? What do we want to ignore? Doing things well, who's doing things poorly? And I think this app Layers, they do, I believe, more on the merchandising side. They do search as well, but Layers on the merchandising side, I think, is really, really powerful. And if anything, I'm really impressed with their backend. So what's invisible to merchants that they do really well is syncing catalog data very quickly. And that's something that we've had to spend a lot of time learning to do. And knowing how opinionated Shopify's APIs are, and Google's APIs, and the webhooks, and how there's just like a lot of noise in the systems that are not built for data syncing to happen easily. I think the Layers team built that from the ground up in a really respectable way. Whether or not the search and merch on top of that, I think that layer is kind of the more competitive one. But the back end layer, the layer that merchants don't see is very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I've dealt with layers a little bit as well, and yeah, I think that's it. Like the way that people have built these platforms, like in
Yeah.
such a complex area, like it's not as simple as just building a single function and an app that you install and spend a few minutes dropping some liquid code in. Like it is across every part of the experience, and yeah,
Yeah.
the data that you're having to pull in to deliver what you actually say you want to deliver here there's so many different modules to it. So yeah, it's great to hear that yeah, your opinions on that as well. And yeah, I think like it'll be really interesting as well to see like the sort of incumbent platforms. Obviously that they are doing stuff in the background, and I'm seeing some interesting stuff that some of them are doing, or are just functions that have been around for a while that just need optimizing. But it's going to be a really interesting time for people as they go into yeah, choosing their tech stack for the next 12, 18 months. They
Yeah.
yeah, that
It's a big decision too. Customers put a lot of trust in these apps. It blows my mind what some do and some don't do to
yeah.
support those.
No, and I think that the challenge too, and I'd maybe like to get your opinion on this as well, is just with regards to how like you could easily have 100 apps on your store, and
Oof.
there's probably someone that's the best at every micro feature that you could have on a site. But if
Yeah.
you've got 100 apps on your store, you're not leveraging any of them as well as possible.
Right.
How do you see like that evolving, and what other sort of apps do you see yeah, people having alongside Nimstrata in their tech stack?
Yeah. So oftentimes people will find us and they kind of see the shiny objects. They see Google, they see AI, they see search, and
Mm,
they book a call on my Calendly. And we turn down probably more business than we say yes to because we're not a good fit everywhere. Like if you
mm.
don't have sufficient user traffic to train AI models and you don't have a lot of SKUs, it does not make sense to use our solution. And that default assumption to like go and see like Google AI, whatever, let's get this app, let's schedule time with them. I think if you go and just install every app that looks like it will help you do something well, like we've seen some ridiculous stores out there that have just been so damaged by that mentality. And so I think you really just need to like a core set of apps that meets your business goals. And candidly, I think like Shopify's default apps are good enough for most stores getting started, including on search and discovery, right? You don't really need an enterprise grade search tool until you hit higher SKU counts or until you need more filters or, basically want these massive collection pages or like revenue optimized results. Like you won't get the benefits of an AI tool or our AI tool if you don't have the right kind of fit for that. And I think a lot of apps are built in similar ways where most people think they need a technology, but they actually need to grow into that technology. They don't need it that day. But to answer your question more directly, the apps that we typically see alongside ours are something for getting that user generated content. So like a reviews app, whether that's like Judge Me or reviews.io, that one comes up a lot. I like to see an A/B testing app on a store. Whether or not a customer is using it or not, that's also a pretty big indicator. Worse, if they have one and they're paying for it and not using it, that's kind of a red flag. But the reality is like we really like working with customers who continue to test, whether that's testing functionality in our solution or testing surrounding functionality somewhere else on their store. Having a good search and merchandising tool when you're a large catalog becomes kind of table stakes. Having a good user generated content tool to get that information to feed, kind of the user piece on your website, like what can be brought in, not generated by your team, and then a tool to test these things. And if you have like those three components for your search and merchandising journey, you can go really far in optimizing for conversions and revenue without a lot of other bloat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that the other thing I was telling people too is you've got to have stuff that you can evolve and take in and take out. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing too. You've got to have a stack where you've got those tools like UGC is going to evolve a lot as well. We've seen even new tools like Tolstoy come up in the last 2 years that have
Right.
become huge in that space. And so yeah, I think the ability to be nimble and change quickly on a lot of this stuff, and yeah, having things that your team knows how to use and can become actual experts in, and not have 15 dashboards to look at. To me,
Yeah.
that's the key. And yeah, look, it's been I'll start to wrap up now, but just want to
Sure.
say how insightful this conversation has been for me. I don't even care if anyone listens to this because I've got so much out of it. I yeah,
Same,
look
Martin. It's
forward
always great catching up anyways. Yeah.
I look forward to working with Nimstrata more, and and the other platforms that are evolving in this space. Like it's what keeps our jobs interesting. And yeah, it's really is fantastic to hear your insights across that entire journey. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how things continue to evolve for you. And yeah, just in that search and merch space across the year. So thanks so much for joining us, Sebastian. I hope everyone who's been listening has also got as much out of this as I have. And yeah, we look forward to being back for another episode of the Shopify App Show soon.
Thanks, Martin.
Thanks again, Sebastian, for joining us, and thanks for listening in. If you made it to the end, really appreciate you getting through the whole show. We look forward to catching up with another episode next week as we keep working through a bunch of great innovative apps in the Shopify space, all talking about different stuff. So love to hear your feedback. If you want to follow us and you're enjoying these episodes, don't forget to subscribe, like, all of that stuff. You know the business with podcasts and how they work. So thank you again, and we'll be back again very soon.